about this for confidence? Ezekiel Elliott feels really good about his team this season. Zeke told reporters on Monday night, quote, "This is probably the most talented team I've been on. Just look at the depth chart. Look at the roster. Look at how many Pro Bowlers, how many All-Pro guys we have out there." Huh, Shannon, any problem with Zeke saying this?
Yeah, come on. Bring it.
Yeah.
I dare you.
We hear this every year from the Cowboys. The last 2 years, what has Jerry and Steven said? This team stacks up favorably to my Super Bowl winning teams of the 90s. A team that had how many Hall of Famers? You had 3 on offense, you had 2, you had Charles Haley, and you had time on defense. So you had 5, well, you had 4 on offense. Larry Allen was also.
By the way, Darren Woodson.
Yeah, Darren Woodson's right. Yeah, he finished in the top 15. So you have potentially 7 Hall of Famers every year. They said this last year. You had all this talent, and then you didn't make the playoffs. So how talented actually are you? Because every year I hear this from the Cowboys. Ooh, we loaded. Oh, man. Skip, I had a homeboy. He do this every time I see him. Sharp, man, I got a dime piece. Ooh, whoa. Man, she's smoking. And I come back to him about 6 months later. Hey, man, what happened to that girl? Man, we ain't make it. So what good are you telling me all this? You got a dime piece.
That happens.
Exactly. And how many times do you hear teams say, boy, this is the most talented team I've been around. Woo, we loaded. We got this, we got that. Okay, is it going to equate, Skip, to, let's say, a division title, maybe a deep run, NFC championship game or the Super Bowl? That doesn't do any good, Skip, having all this talent. At the end of the day, if it doesn't blossom into something fruitful. Man, I'm so tired of them. Man, they do all this talking. Skip, y'all do you know what? I used to blame the fans. Because every year these fans, the Cowboys fans come out there with this bull jive. Oh, this is our year. Ooh, the Cowboys gonna do it. Watch this, Super Bowl, here we come. I don't fault them anymore. I fault your owner and I fault your players. Because all y'all do is bump y'all gums every single year and you go 8-8. And that's what you do. You miss the playoffs. So I'm tired of y'all, Skip. Y'all need to stop this foolishness. And I bet I'm so sick of y'all with this mess, Skip. This is utterly ridiculous. Oh, we so talented. Ooh, look at the depth chart. Look at, we got all these Pro Bowlers. We got all these All-Pros. And every year, 8-8. Win 1 game or your last, win 2 games or your last 4. And you go to and you win the division. And you get a home playoff game. And you couldn't win but 1. And you got to beat the pathetic Washington team. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. I wouldn't even say nothing, Skip. I would keep my mouth closed. I would not even mention anything about talent. That's a shame. You know he's wrong for this.
My turn. I will give you this. The fans of America's team often lead the league in overreaction, in getting carried away, especially in August.
Yeah.
I will give you that.
Right.
I often join them. I get swept away with the tide, the rising tide of metallic blue. And I will give you this. They have lost Byron Jones, and they did lose Travis Frederick, and they just lost Gerald McCoy, a signee who I thought was going to be a pillar, a stalwart in the middle of that defensive line, and maybe a new leader of the defense. I will give you all of the above. The problem with the point you just made is you attributed getting carried away to Jerry and Stephen Jones, who often do get carried away. They get full of themselves. They get blinded. They see August mirages in the Texas heat. And I got that. But this was not Jerry. This was not Stephen. This was Ezekiel Elliott. And the irony of this statement is, if that man, number 21, can have, I'm going to call it a bounce-back year. You don't think he has anything to bounce back from?
Nope.
I do. He fell to 4th in the league in rushing last year.
Wow.
Well, for him, a guy who just perennially leads the league in yards per game, no, that was wrong. It was off, and I gave you that first down stat. He was 2nd in the league in carries on first down. He was 19th in yards per carry on first down. That's a capsule. That's the nugget. Speaking of Denver Nuggets, that's the one that says it all about last year's Cowboys, is that they tried to feed the beast on first down, and he went nowhere slowly. So if he can have a bounce-back year, then he is exactly right. It's not probably the most talented. It just is the most talented team that he has played on since his rookie year in 2016, when, by the way, they went 13-3 that year. In 2018, they went 10-6, and they actually beat Russell Wilson and the Seahawks in a playoff game. And now what has happened this year?
Yeah, what has happened?
How can you argue with the moves this team has made? How can you argue with Everson Griffin? He's a stud. He made the Pro Bowl last year, and they just stole him, signed him cheap with a Cam Newton-style contract.
So, in other words, Minnesota would rather pay $13, $14 million for a guy and have to give up draft picks as opposed to sign the guy that they had on their roster and they've known for 7, 8 years.
Is he better than what we had last year? You better believe.
He better than Robert Quinn?
Yeah. And he plays different positions. I mean, he can play inside and outside both. They can move him around.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he is.
Okay.
I think he's more dependable. I think he moves the pile better than Robert Quinn.
Okay.
Robert Quinn's pure edge rusher,
Yes.
and he did benefit from double teams on the other side of that guy who didn't have much of a year, but that guy.
So now he double teams. So 21. As you tell me all the time, we're going to talk about this a little later.
Yeah.
The really great ones, they play through double teams.
Did I ever say D-Law was Lawrence Taylor? I did not. He did not exactly lay down the law last year from the left side of the line, and maybe he will this year.
Okay.
Because I still believe Aldon Smith, albeit 5 years out of pro football, I think he's going to have an impact this year. I think Dontari Poe will anchor the middle of that line. And listen, I kept telling you, they stole Neville Gallimore. When he was at OU, he just disrupted from the defensive tackle. He'll be in the rotation, and Bradley and I, you watch, out of Utah, watch him fly off the edge and make a few plays a game as a spot edge rusher. They're just better. They're deeper. They're more talented. And this draft class, I called it first. I first guessed this. They got CeeDee Lamb on top of Amari, on top of Michael Gallup, and all the raves out of camp. CeeDee Lamb is already emerging as the best of the three, and I predicted it. I told you he's going to be better than Amari or Gallup. I think you'll see it sooner than later. Within the first 6, 8 games, you're going to see CeeDee Lamb take over this team.
You won't.
Okay? Well, they're just better. All of a sudden, it lifts everything.
Skip.
Rising tide lifts all boats. All the boats are going to be lifted off because of CeeDee Lamb.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
In the last decade, how many evaluators, how many opposing coaches have ever said the Cowboys aren't talented? Talent has never been their problem.
Okay.
It's fallen below expectation has been. It's the thing what I keep telling you. What is the biggest determining factor is that it's expectations. And if they have that because they are so talented, is that they fail to meet those expectations because, as you mentioned, offensive line that's potentially littered. They got 2 Hall of Fame offensive linemen, Ty Smith, Zach Martin, Hall of Famers. You got a potential Hall of Famer at running back. You got guys that go to the Pro Bowl almost every year at wide receiver. And what have they got, you Skip?
This is real talent. This is talent with electricity attached to it. Trevon Diggs is a stud corner. Again, I don't love him as straight man-to-man, but he gets his hands on the ball. Byron Jones picked off 2 passes in 5 years, 1 in 16 and 1 in 17.
Well, he might not pick it off, but he don't let the other guy catch it.
Okay, I'll give you that. But you need electricity. You need playmaking on defense. And Trevon Diggs, as the younger brother of Stephon, who's now Buffalo Bill, watch what he'll do. He'll step right in and he will get his hands on the football. So will Reggie Robinson. So all of a sudden, I'm looking at a draft class that has juice to it. It has mystique to it. It's going to grow where they're all excited about it. They're going to excite the rest of the team. And then look at Blake Jarwin. I think he's really talented.